Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you for giving us the time. My first question to you is, what does opening up space for the sector to the private players by the government mean for the sector?
Well, several things. First of all, we have to look at space not just in terms of space exploration, in terms of interplanetary missions, in terms of going to moon, but also in terms of what it means for the economy and what it means for public good. What can it do in terms of improving the life of our citizens, right? So where the private sector comes in is in that part. I don't expect private sector to play a major role in the medium term in terms of scientific missions, but I do see private sector to play a major role in terms of commercial exploitation of opportunities in space. So there are many areas where private sector can participate. Perhaps the easiest one will be applications, where from space data one can create applications on various fields like agriculture, like weather monitoring, like disaster monitoring, urban planning, marine, climate change. There are many areas where space data can be used for getting very useful information, which can be used by citizens to improve in some ways.
And how can the local startup, like there are a lot of startup companies that are, into the space sector because it is opened up, for them. How do you think they are going to make a change, or how do you think they can participate to become global players?
Well, I think it's similar to the kind of difference startups have made in any other sector. If you look at sector, the startups are there in many sectors, and they have taken large strides and done things that well-established players couldn't do, right? Because they have a certain level of innovativeness, they have a certain level of agility, and they have a certain level of risk-taking that they do, that large players sometimes don't do. And sometimes they take a view that I have nothing to lose. If I fail, I move on to something else, right? So therefore, startups can take up each of the areas in a space and make a difference. I talked about applications, which is one of the areas that startups can do very easily and are doing. But even in the launches, there are right now two launch vehicles that have been developed by startups in India. One is Skyroot, one is Agnikul. That's in the sort of early stage of development. And these could become a very big opportunity for India to become a global center, global hub for launching small satellites, and that will all happen by startup. Satellites, okay, Earth observation, navigation, communication, all of these areas startups can come in their own way, not repeating what is being done by ISRO, but starting off from what ISRO is doing and taking it forward.
So you just talked about Skyroot. Can you tell us what future do you see for that particular company in the near future? 5 years, 10 years down the line?
Well, I wouldn't want to talk about, sort of speak on a specific company and what I see for the company. But what I would like to say is that a small launch vehicle have a very big future because slowly the world is going towards polarization of very large launch vehicles like Falcon and so on, and small launch vehicles which are just emerging in the last 2, 3, 4 years. And therefore Skyroot is in that segment to create a small launch vehicle, and their hope is that they will be able to do it at a very cost-effective manner compared to anything else that is available. And Government of India is going to support that effort of Skyroot and Agnikul and few other companies that are working on it, including ISRO's own SSLV rocket, by creating a space port in the southern tip of India, which will be used only for small launch vehicles. And therefore, I would think that all of these companies, assuming that they're able to do a good development, they're cost effective, they're able to do good marketing, they will have a bright future, all these companies.
My other question is for the government, for the startup space, to become, especially in India. What do you think is lagging, and how do you think, the government and the startup companies should kneel and tread and bring it all together to make India a global player?
Well, see, that's the role for INSPACE, the organization that I am heading right now, on bringing or enabling and promoting the industry's ability to play a meaningful role in the space sector, both in India and outside India. So what the government is doing, the starting point was the policy, space policy that was launched in April of this year, followed now by a new FDI policy. Now for startups, getting investment, getting funding is obviously very, very important. And current FDI policy is very restrictive in terms of what kind of funding can come into the space sector. India had opened the defense sector some time ago for FDI. Now we're going to be doing similar thing for the space sector, and within the next couple of months, I think we should have the new FDI policy launched. So that will help the startups. Third thing that we are doing are multiple schemes that we are putting in place to provide financial assistance, to provide price support, to do hand holding, to give access to ISRO's expertise, to give access to ISRO's infrastructure, to help create business outside India. All of these things INSPACE is working on, along with the other departments of the government and along with the companies.
Now, so my final question is, can you talk to us about the space industry projections, like being an $8 billion industry, and how do we get that?
Well, see, right now it's a good question because it's very difficult to calculate what the value of current space economy is. We have done some work right now, and we are estimating it to be $8.4 billion current space economy. We have started working now with MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistical Planning and Implementation, I think it's called MOSPI, which is given the mandate to create to sort of measure the economy on various sectors. We're working with them now to see how we can come up with a very formal way of measuring space economy. Right? However, I should say that we have done a decadal vision, which we have announced in October, to see where space economy can go from the current 8 billion, and we have a very aspirational target of taking a space economy to $44 billion, which is 5 times as much in about 10 years time. That will still be only about 6-7% of global space economy from a current 2% of global space economy. Space economy is very large, and we expect it to be $1 trillion by 2040. So lots of pieces coming together. This is the latest sunrise sector in India, even though it's 60 years old, but it is sunrise sector because the economic activity in the sector started only about 2-3 years ago. Right? So there are a lot of pieces that we are trying to put in place with small scale industries, with startups, with academia, with large companies, with ISRO, with other departments of the government, with foreign entities, bringing it all together to see how we can create a holistic opportunity for the Indian private sector and Indian space economy to grow.
Also, are startups adding value to ISRO's efforts to space?
Yes, of course. I mean, look, ISRO, for whatever it does, about 70% of the value is bought from various companies, imported from outside as well as bought from Indian companies. Startups are not in the space of providing components, and they are in the space of doing their own thing, like you mentioned Skyroot, who have made their own rocket. So Skyroot, like company, does not directly contribute to ISRO because they don't supply anything. But then there are companies that are right now doing some R&D project with ISRO to see how they can take ISRO's knowledge forward by doing some more value addition to that. So startups are more in their field of creating complete offering and not just be a support to ISRO, where the larger companies that have been existing for many years are more in the area of supporting ISRO.
Alright, so anything else you would like to add?
Well, all I want to say is that this sector is a sector of high importance from 3 viewpoints. One, a sector that gives a lot of pride and respect to India. Okay, Chandrayaan 3 was a very good example of how the whole of country came together. It only happens when India plays Pakistan in the World Cup final, right? So the whole company came together and cheered for India, for ISRO scientists, how the Prime Minister himself got engaged, how the whole world congratulated ISRO on India on the achievement. So that's one thing that the space sector has been doing for many years, and we must be proud of what we have achieved in that sector with very meager resources that we put into it compared to many other countries. Number 2 is the economic value that it can bring out. And I mentioned that $44 billion is what we are talking, very aspirational. Even if we achieve 70-80% of it, that's a very big addition to the economic aspect of the country. And the third one is what it does to daily life of our citizens. The application that I talked about, I mean, every day we use space, we don't even realize it. All the communication, you are probably using space right now in transmitting this interview to your station, right? And today, for example, we don't have complete digital connectivity in India. Space can bring that through satellites, which work has already started. We have given right now authorization to OneWeb, to start doing the satellite broadband, and many more are in the pipeline. So how it can impact the daily life of a citizen. So in these three aspects, space can be very big, sort of attractive area for us to put a focus on and take it forward.
One final question: can startups survive, without the funding coming in, or can
it's no different than any deep tech startup. So there are basically two kinds of startup: ones that are more into marketplace kind of area and creating new ways of transacting, new ways of buying, and so on and so forth. I'm just being very simplistic, but that's one. And second is technology, the deep tech startups. Deep techs always have much higher gestation period, right? And often requires a lot more funding, not in terms of profit, not in terms of loss funding, but just in terms of the R&D that you have to invest in. And therefore, both startups, both kinds, require funding. Without funding, no startup can survive, because typically the promoters are not people with deep pocket. Okay, they depend on investors to do it, and I think I'm very happy to see how the interest in space startups is now growing. Okay, 3 years ago, the total funding was $15-20 million. Last year it was $115 million. This year we have crossed $125 million. And there's a lot of interest that is coming from investors to talk to us in INSPACE to see where the opportunity is in the space area. And as we see some positive outcome, achievements of the startups, more and more money will come in. So some of the companies have done very well and raised very good funding, have good valuation. I'm waiting for the first unicorn in the space sector, and I'm targeting end of next year as the date for the first unicorn to happen.
Would you like to name a company that you think
No.
would you like to bet on a few names?
No.
So one question from us, a 5 times revenue target is humongous, and I'm sure we have a great plan working towards there, some unicorns coming in. As we speak, there are a lot of startups that are still in the ideation stage in the space sector as well. So if you were to talk to them and tell them what are some of the problems that need solving for the country right now in the space sector, what would those be?
So see, we are working on that already from INSPACE. We have a seed funding scheme whereby we are identifying specific problems and then announcing an opportunity for startups to work on those problems. And then we provide some seed funding for them to start working, and then of course they have to raise their own funds. So we had done agriculture as the first one, which is already done, and we have selected 2 startups who we are funding in agriculture to create applications in agriculture for various things. In agriculture, it should be crop monitoring, it could be estimation, it could be soil testing, it could be how much fertilizer to give, many kinds of things. Right. The next one that we are currently in the process is in the area of urban planning and disaster management.
Okay.
And you would have seen in urban planning now with the space data, we can do a lot more than what could have been done in the past. Of course, the data often you have to look at data in sort of 3 layers: space, drone or aerospace, and ground. Right? And you collect data from 3 sources and put it all together to give you a full picture. And a lot is happening in geospatial world, and that's the whole area, geospatial area. And Government of India is also pushing very hard on geospatial. There's a new geospatial policy that has come out, and that's a very big industry that Government of India is focusing on.
Great. That's great to know, sir.
All right.
Thank you.